Hello, this is Kathleen Chiris from Buyer Agent Search, and I'm interviewing Jeffrey Kennison, who recently sold his house in the Denver metro market and ended up buying a house on his own, a for sale by owner property. And we're here to interview Jeff to get his honest opinion of using a licensed real estate agent. Here in the Denver area and many other metropolitan areas in the U.S., it's a strong seller's market. So people are thinking all you really need to do is price your property at the right market price and make sure it has new paint and carpet and then just sell it yourself. Well, why did you go ahead and decide to hire a licensed listing agent?
Well, besides, and thank you for interviewing me. I think this is a lot of fun. Besides being suggested to me, as I got into the process right away, really early on in the process, when I finally made a decision to sell and I had a place that I was interested in buying, I realized right away that I really needed professional advice. Really needed it bad.
Okay. And why was that? What did you learn when you were interviewing agents and throughout the process that made you kind of realize it might be helpful?
Initially, I was like a lot of other people you just mentioned about, the market was so amazing and has been for so long now. And I thought, and my house was worth so much on some of the estimating sites that you go on where they tell you what your property's worth. And I thought, well, all I got to do, I had a new roof, I had a new furnace, new hot water heater, and new paint. And I thought maybe all I need is carpet, like you said. No. I found out very quickly that there were so many other things to consider that only a professional would have that ability to guide you through those things.
Okay. And so he did what kinds of things? Did he stop by your house?
Mm-hmm. He came to the initial meeting. He stopped by the house and went around and identified many things that I hadn't really considered that would be, attractive. If you fixed them, would help buyers look at the house in a favorable light. I really wasn't aware until I contacted a professional of many of these hundreds of things that he mentioned.
Okay. And did he help you set the price of your house during your time?
Yes, he did. He set the price. Again, the professional knows, at least this guy did, what to do as far as pricing. I was dreaming of a certain amount because of the estimates that I saw online, and he made me see reality that the pricing should be something that would attract people to the sale. Rather than pricing it way up, maybe scaring people away, or pricing it way down to maybe make people think, it's not worth it or something's wrong with it. He found a price point right in the middle that made people come in and start this bidding war almost. We almost had a bidding war, because of his expertise in pricing the house. So again, I couldn't have figured that out myself.
And he used things like comparative market analysis, which is sort of a realtor term, meaning he looked at different kinds of properties in your neighborhood to see what would be a reasonable price. Is that right?
Yes, he did. CMAs, that's the term. I really didn't know what that was, again, until I contacted a professional. But once I realized, he went all over the neighborhood. Prices that had been sold, or houses, that had been sold, that were for sale and were about to be for sale. He had all this information to help develop a price point, and it worked. He was right on the money.
Okay, great. So tell me, how many listing agents or seller agents there did you interview?
3.
Okay.
As in many other cases in my life anyway, I always get 3 opinions, estimates, prices before I spend my money.
Okay. And had you talked to friends and neighbors and stuff before then also?
A lot of advice from family members, friends, neighbors. Oh, you're going to get a lot of money for this house, and you're going to, I can't, And I went, well, gee, that sounds great. But then, so when I talked to the professional, I was a little disappointed. But once he explained why that we were going to choose this price, then I realized, but yeah, I had a lot of advice like everybody else, but the only way to cut to the chase is to hire somebody that knows exactly what they're doing, and this kid did.
And you chose not to hire your neighbor? I thought your neighbor was also...
She had advised me, and and I got some opinions from her. This one neighbor I had was a realtor, and yeah, she was nice enough to give me some opinions about what I might need to do and stuff. But she was a neighbor and a friend, and I also have this policy in my life where I like to hire professionals that I don't know to do stuff,
Mm-hmm.
services and things. So then you can come back on them. You can come if something goes wrong. You can feel better about coming back on them.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
That's why I chose a independent professional.
Okay. And were you able to negotiate a reduced commission on your listing?
I was. I asked for it. That's how the negotiation starts. I think if I was going to recommend to the people looking at this video, yes, ask. Ask nicely, but ask. How can I get a break?
And of the 3 you interviewed, how many were open to discussing a flexible commission with you?
All of them,
Okay.
for different reasons. You know,
Okay.
they had different techniques and stuff, but all of them were willing to discuss a reduced rate.
Okay. And there are several questions you can ask with regards to reducing the commission, like does the reduced commission depend on how easy it is to sell, for example, or how quickly it'll sell? Was that one of the considerations?
That wasn't. We talked about it, but that really didn't, determine whether or not I was going to get a break on it. At least in my understanding, I didn't think they were willing to do that based on the length of time it took to sell. That was not part of it.
Because you had heard that in a strong seller's market, you were probably going to sell it pretty quickly anyway. So
That's
everybody
what I was
was
told.
on a pretty much same playing field when it came to that.
And I kind of knew that going into it.
Okay.
A week, people were saying all over town, 5 to 7 days, you're going to get rid of it. So that really wasn't part of it.
Okay. How about if the listing agent was also your buyer's agent in your next purchase? Did they offer to give you a discount then?
Yes.
Okay. And how did that pertain to you?
Well, it didn't really, because the property I was going to buy on my own.
And it was out of town. It was not in
Out
the
of
same
town. Didn't need a buyer's agent really, but yes, that's one way you can save money.
Okay.
Yeah, I was
And,
told.
and your listing agent, you said, also had certain skills that you appreciated that might be different from a buyer's agent?
Yes, he did.
Okay. For example, what kinds of things did he have? Like marketing and things like that?
I got the impression right away that his marketing skills were top notch, and his accessibility was 24/7. His knowledge and expertise seemed to me to be very high.
Okay, so those were critical
Yeah.
determining factors in choosing that particular agent.
Any business, anything I do in my business or anything I do in life, if somebody appears to have knowledge and knows what they're doing and has a license, which is you have to have, that attracts me.
Okay. And did he discuss if a buyer happened to call him directly from the sign, would he give you a discount if you
Yeah.
ended up having the buyer as well?
Yeah, that's one of the tricks that he mentioned. If somebody's driving by and they call on the sign, that's a good way to save money too.
Okay.
I think all you got to do is ask.
Okay.
How can I save money on this commission? And if
Right.
it's somebody good, they'll tell you.
Okay. So, how far ahead of your actual listing date did you end up acquiring your seller's agent?
Well, the official acquisition of an agent was 2 months. I had considered this for years, but when I finally got down to it, 2 months out, I think it at least has to be that, at least 2 months out.
Okay.
I mean, the interview process was about 2 or 3 weeks, so 3 months total, but the first month, most of that first month was taken up choosing somebody. But I chose somebody 2 months out, and we needed every minute of that time.
Okay, so he helped you by walking through the house and
Yeah.
by helping you get a hold of other good contractors for things that he thought should be fixed up, things like that.
Yeah, I had other help with that too. People I know or connected with people that could help me. But I think the cool thing was to get the job. We did the walkthrough and the walk around of the house before I contracted with him. So he was willing to spend a lot of time with me before I signed anything. As I recall, I had another interview after him. So I interviewed one person and then him in the middle, and I said, I have to wait till I interview the third one. And he was very patient, very professional. He gave me a lot of consideration. He worked a lot for me up front before I signed anything. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, the walkthrough and the way, and then the second or third walkthrough as we went were invaluable. So yeah, you do need every minute of that time. I felt. I know that now anyway.
Okay, great. So when you got to the phase of your process of selling your house where there were bids, options going back and forth of people who were saying, putting bids on your property, you had multiple bids on your property. How was that for you? Was that, did your seller agent help you negotiate those different offers?
He did.
Okay.
That was an anxietous time, and I think will be for everybody. You're waiting for that first bid. And he had, oh, that's right. And now I think, I'm glad you're asking this question, because I remember he had a great deal of psychological information and marketing information. All the things rolled into deciding on what the good bid is. The first bid comes in, you don't want to do this or that. He had lots of advice, wait and see what happens. And then he knew which bid was going to be the serious one. Now that I think about it, I remember him even mentioning the reaction and how the people behaved, reports on how people behaved in the house that gave the bid, that made me know which bid was going to work and be serious. So he had that covered too. I was amazed by that.
He noticed, I think you told me that he noticed when people would say, oh, I would put this in this room, or I'd put that
That's what
in
I was thinking
and
about.
he thought they were more serious buyers than the ones that he didn't even have any contact with or get much feedback from the buyer's agents of those people.
That was interesting to me, that he had enough skill, and I think that goes way beyond skill in his business. He was a skillful guy with people. That you're right. The one couple that we finally went with were the ones that came in and started visualizing what to do with the house, and he knew that was an important aspect of which bid was serious and that was more solid. They wouldn't lose. You could hold on to it.
After you accepted one of the offers, there's a phase, a part of the process where they get to call in inspectors and all that. And you have to wait and see what they come up with. How was that phase for you?
Agonizing. It really was. It turned out really well. The concessions I had to make probably were no more than about $1,100 total, I think. And that was a miracle to me, because there were some issues with the house that we both saw, that I showed him, that could have been much worse. But the way he did things and the things he suggested that I do mitigated all that, down to a failed radon test that cost me $700 and a crack in a basement wall that cost me $500. So it was about $1,200 total. So because of his ability, I think we skated on that. And it wasn't like we were selling anything that was, below standard, because there were cracks in the basement, but no, like every other house in the entire neighborhood or the entire state, with the kind of soil we have here, there's always cracks. But the way he did it, it worked. And then the sewer scope, I think we got, I was told that they can ask for one, but they didn't. And I think it was because of something was mentioned, that nobody saw any big trees over the sewer line. So they didn't bother to do that. So the only real thing that I worried about was the crack and the radon, but they both came out really fine. And I think it was mostly due to his expertise.
Okay, so that was really helpful to you, because the buyers, during the inspection phase, they can, for pretty much any reason, say, I want my earnest money back, it doesn't pass my muster, and therefore I'm out of the deal. And suddenly you're thinking, I want to get into my new house, and there you no longer have a buyer. Mm-hmm. So that's partly why it was a little bit terrifying at that point.
It was terrifying, but he really was reassuring. I just got the feeling that he saw what I didn't see, and that's why, again, a professional is the only way to go. He saw the things that I had no idea. If I was trying to do that myself, it would have been a mess. I'd have messed it all up.
Now, when you decided to sign that listing agreement, there was a pretty good percentage still left in there that paid both the buyer agent and the seller agent out of the price of your property. Mm-hmm. And so, but you, how did you feel about that, knowing that maybe roughly half of the commission was going to go to a buyer's agent, roughly half was going to go to him? Was that worthwhile for you?
Yeah, and I know everybody, I don't know how everybody, but there's a lot of people that feel like I do right away, like, what? I have to pay that much for what? What are you doing for me? But as I watched the process unfold, I realized it was worth every penny of that commission, because we got $10,000 over asking price. we actually made the deal. That's the most important thing. You made the deal, and I got out of there with enough money to get my new home and pay off all my debts and retire.
Okay.
So yeah, worth every penny.
Good, great.
But not more than that. Not much more than that. Right there.
Okay, so in sum, do you think you would recommend going through an interview process and possibly hiring a listing agent if you want to sell your home, and
Oh,
even
yeah.
in a seller's
Oh
market?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. No question.
Okay, super. Well, thank you, Mr. Kennison. I really appreciate the time, and I'm sure the people viewing will also benefit from this. And you have a good rest of the day.
Thank you very much.
Okay, bye-bye.